The boarding door had just closed when the voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, departure in 10 minutes." He adjusted his cufflinks and settled into seat 2A, a quiet exhale, the kind that follows a lifetime of earning the right to rest. Then the shadow fell. "Sir," the flight attendant said, her tone polite but already certain, "I think you're in the wrong seat." He looked up, confused but calm. "Is that so?" Her eyes flicked between his skin, his simple linen jacket, and the bright silver of the first-class placard. "This looks like a screenshot," she murmured, pointing to the QR code on his phone. A few passengers turned. One whispered, "Probably an upgrade mistake." He straightened slightly, holding the phone higher under the cabin light, the code scanning clean and green. But she didn't look at the screen. She looked at him. In his breast pocket, a tiny piano key glinted white. He pressed a finger against it, as if to steady a note only he could hear. "Is that your proof?" he asked softly. "Or your doubt? Have you ever been judged before you even spoke, not for what you did, but for what you looked like?" Before we go deeper into this story, tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Are you on a train, in your car, or lying somewhere quiet with your headphones on? I'd love to know where in the world you're hearing this moment. Drop your city in the comments below. And if stories like this one, stories that peel back injustice and remind us what dignity sounds like, mean something to you, make sure you subscribe. You'll never miss the next heartbeat of truth. Now, take a breath. The cabin lights just dimmed, and our story, Harmony in the First Class, is about to move from silence into tension. He stayed still long enough for the tension to breathe. The flight attendant, still holding his boarding pass, tilted her head slightly, that polite smile trained to diffuse, not to apologize. "I just need to double-check this with the front desk," she said. "It'll only take a moment." He nodded once. "Take your time." Her heels clicked down the narrow aisle, the sound too sharp against the plush carpet of first class. Around him, people resumed their quiet choreography, folding jackets, adjusting screens, but every motion carried a faint stiffness, like they were performing civility on camera. From 2 rows back, a man's whisper cut through. "Probably a musician upgrade mistake." Someone chuckled softly. Another voice, feminine, said, "He looks calm, though. I'd be furious." He turned his head slightly. The man who'd spoken wore a navy blazer, gold cufflinks glinting beneath the reading light. His partner scrolled through her phone, pretending not to notice she was being watched by her own reflection in the dark window. He could feel it, the room dividing. Not by seats, but by certainty. Those who assumed, those who observed, and those who filmed. A faint glow from seat 4B. A young woman, no older than 25, held her phone half hidden behind a magazine. The camera lens pointed forward. He caught her eye for half a second. She didn't look away. 40 viewers, she mouthed silently, like a confession. He gave a small nod. "Make sure you get the light right," he murmured under his breath, not in anger, but in weary irony. The intercom cracked again. "Departure in 8 minutes. Please take your seats." He inhaled. The cabin air had that recycled chill too clean to feel alive. His hand brushed the edge of his jacket, fingers grazing the tiny piano key tucked inside. A gift from his daughter, plastic but smooth, one white, one black, she had said, "So you never forget your harmony." Now, as he rubbed it between his fingers, he could almost hear the note it used to play. The flight attendant returned with a different woman, older, supervisory posture. The first one spoke softly to her, words swallowed by the hum of the engines, but the tone carried, restrained irritation dressed as professionalism. The supervisor leaned in. "Sir, may I see your ID as well?" He passed it to her without flinching. She studied it for a long beat, then forced a thin smile. "Of course. Thank you for your patience." "No apology, just procedure." He said nothing. But in the row behind, the man in the blazer whispered again, louder this time, emboldened by silence. "See? Should have bought a real ticket." Laughter, brief, but poisonous. The young woman filming flinched. Her camera trembled slightly. She whispered to herself, God, people are watching this live. Her phone buzzed 1,200 viewers. Comments flooded in. They're profiling him. Classic first-class racism. Where's the captain? He's too calm, that's power. The supervisor's smile wavered as she realized the phone was aimed at her now. She straightened. Sir, you can take your seat. He replied evenly. That's what I've been trying to do. She hesitated, and in that hesitation, the hierarchy cracked. He sat back down slowly. Around him, the silence stretched until it hummed. Someone sneezed. Someone else cleared their throat too loudly. The young woman kept filming. 5,000 viewers now. Through the window, he saw the ground crew detach the boarding bridge. One of them looked up, eyes briefly locking with his, a silent witness to another kind of turbulence. The intercom chimed again. Cabin crew, please prepare for door closure. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sound wash over him. Every note of it, the clicks, the murmurs, the restrained breaths, formed a kind of off-key symphony. He placed the piano key flat on the armrest, tapping it once with his thumb. Harmony wasn't in the instruments. It was in the pause before the noise. And this cabin, right now, was nothing but noise waiting to break. The hum of the engines thickened, low and constant, the kind of sound that swallowed smaller noises. The flight attendant stood in front of him again, posture firm, smile fixed. Sir, she said, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. He blinked slowly. Am I making it harder? She exhaled through her nose, polite irritation wrapped in professional calm. You're being emotional. We just need to follow protocol. He tilted his head slightly, not mocking, just studying. And what emotion would that be, exactly? Her smile faltered. Frustration. Anger. It's understandable, but it doesn't help. From somewhere behind them, a man muttered, He's playing the race card already. The words hit like static, not loud, but sharp enough to sting. The young woman with the phone turned halfway in her seat, her camera catching the attendant's face, then his. The live counter blinked. 12,032 watching. Comments scrolled up like falling ash. She's gaslighting him. He's not even raising his voice. That's that calm down trick classic. The flight attendant seemed to notice the lens now. Her posture stiffened, but she didn't stop. Sir, if you'll just relax, we can sort this out peacefully. Peaceful, he repeated, almost to himself. He looked down at his hands, still, open, resting on his knees. His fingers brushed the inside of his jacket pocket, where the piano key waited like a secret pulse. His mother's voice surfaced steady, precise. Never raise your voice, no matter how loud the room gets. He smiled faintly. My mother taught me never to raise my voice, he said quietly, even when the room gets louder. The attendant frowned. Excuse me? He looked up, meeting her eyes. It's not anger you're hearing, it's disbelief. A silence spread like ink. The passengers around them pretended to scroll, to read, to sleep. But every ear was tilted toward that stillness. The young woman's camera didn't move. She whispered, "Oh my God," as if the moment itself had cracked something invisible. The intercom chimed, "Cabin crew, please be seated for takeoff." But the FA didn't move. Her authority was too fragile to retreat now. "Sir, I'm asking you to remain calm," she said again, her voice lower, the edges fraying. He took a slow breath. The air tasted like metal and perfume. "You've said that 3 times. Does it help you believe it?" A few seats down, the man in the blazer huffed. Some people can't handle privilege gracefully. That laughter again restrained, poisonous. The young woman filming turned to him. "Do you ever get tired?" she asked softly. He gave a small, sad smile. "Of what?" "Of proving you belong." He didn't answer, just looked past her, toward the narrow slit of window, the world outside in motion, indifferent, layered in clouds and glass. The live stream number blinked. 15,400 watching. The attendant straightened. "Sir, we'll have to ask you to step aside if this continues." He tilted his head. "If what continues? Me sitting?" Her lips parted, but no words came. He leaned back slowly, the gesture neither defiant nor submissive, just weary. "Tell me, when I'm silent, am I still a threat?" The engines deepened. The air vibrated faintly through the seats. He lifted the tiny piano key from his pocket and turned it in his palm. White on one side, black on the other. The simplest form of contrast. And yet, together, they made music. He placed it back carefully, as if returning a fragile truth to its box. The attendant blinked hard, stepping back half a pace. "Please, sir, let's just—" But she didn't finish. The cabin lights dimmed slightly, the pre-flight lull, and, for a heartbeat, everything held. He whispered to himself, not a prayer, not even a statement, just a quiet assertion of existence. "I'm still here." The live stream caught it. The viewers saw it. And for the first time, the comments stopped scrolling. The silence was louder than any argument could have been. The plane should have felt alive by now, the hum of readiness, the chatter of pre-flight rituals, but everything had gone still. He sat back, hands folded, eyes fixed on nothing. Across the aisle, the flight attendant hovered near the service galley, whispering into her radio headset. Every few seconds, her eyes darted toward him, then away. No one spoke to him. No one spoke for him. The engines idled, a low animal breathing through the floor. Outside, a tug truck passed beneath the window, its orange light spinning across the cabin like a slow heartbeat. The reflection flitted over his face, flash, fade, flash painting him in and out of existence. The young woman with the phone still held it up, but her arm had grown tired. The live stream chat scrolled in slow motion now. "He's just sitting there. Why's nobody doing anything? This is unbearable." Her thumb hesitated over the screen. For the first time, she turned the camera toward herself. Her own face appeared pale, uneasy. "I don't even know if I should be filming this," she whispered. A voice from behind answered without invitation. "If you stop, they'll bury it," said an older man, his tone brittle. "Keep filming." She nodded, but her voice cracked. "He looks tired." He was. The kind of tired that isn't about sleep, it's about proof. He adjusted his seatbelt. It clicked softly, the sound too intimate for the room. From the intercom, "Cabin crew, final security check." The flight attendant walked past him, brisk, professional, as if distance could cleanse the air. When she leaned across to close the overhead bin, her perfume sterile, floral, brushed against him. He spoke without looking up. "Am I still being verified?" She froze. "Excuse me? You've checked my ticket, my ID, my demeanor? What's left?" For a heartbeat, the hum of the plane became the only reply. Then she said, too quickly, "I'm just following instructions." He nodded once, as if that explained the whole world. She moved on. The young woman's camera caught his hands, now large, composed, resting on his lap. Her viewers commented again. "He's calmer than I'd be." This is dignity. This is the sound of racism silence. She whispered into her mic, "It feels like the air's gone thin." He reached into his jacket pocket and took out the tiny piano key, holding it between his fingers like a prayer bead. A memory surfaced. His daughter at the kitchen table, tapping keys on her little toy piano, asking, "How do you know when a song is finished?" He'd smiled. "When there's nothing left to fix." He looked at the cabin now, the turned heads, the half-averted eyes, and thought, everything here feels broken. Outside, the runway lights blinked, distant and cold. The intercom crackled again. "Doors will close in 5 minutes." He placed the piano key flat on his palm, turned it once black, then white, and slipped it back into his pocket. A steward from economy peeked through the curtain, eyes wide, whispered something to the lead attendant. She shook her head sharply, then looked toward him again. He caught that look, a flicker between guilt and order, and for a brief second he almost pitied her. He leaned his head back against the seat, closing his eyes. The young woman's camera zoomed in on him. His chest rose and fell slowly. The comments poured in again. He's praying. No, he's surviving. There's a difference. Somewhere behind them, a child giggled at a cartoon on the seat screen. The sound was bright, intrusive life intruding on moral discomfort. He opened his eyes at the sound, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Good." No one heard it but the camera mic. That single word rippled through the chat like a note struck cleanly after too much static. And for the first time since boarding began, the silence inside the cabin wasn't just oppressive, it was listening. The hum of the cabin shifted softer now, like a collective exhale that never quite finished. The overhead lights dimmed for takeoff readiness, but the delay hung, heavy, unspoken. He sat motionless, hands resting on his knees, fingers curved slightly inward, as if holding something invisible. The young woman across the aisle had lowered her phone. Her hand trembled, not from fear, but from awareness, that sharp, electric guilt of realizing you're watching a man earn back what should never have been taken. Her live-stream chat was still running, comments flooding in. "He's so calm it hurts." This is art. He's playing a silent song. She whispered, I can't just film him like this anymore." Beside her, a businessman muttered, "It's already everywhere. Too late now." She turned the phone toward the window, away from his face. "Then let them see the silence," she said. He glanced over briefly, his eyes meeting hers, not with gratitude, but recognition. The kind that says, "You see me now," not the story. He unclasped his hands. In his right palm lay the tiny piano key, white plastic worn smooth. He placed it gently on the armrest, pressing it down with one finger. The faint click sounded absurdly small in the vast hush of the cabin. But it carried. Passengers turned. Even the flight attendant paused mid-step. He looked at her and said quietly, "Harmony isn't cute." She frowned, uncertain. "I'm sorry?" "It's balance," he continued. "It's when every note gets heard, even the quiet ones." His voice was low, rich, deliberate. A pianist's cadence, not raised, but resonant. The FA's composure flickered. She glanced toward the supervisor, who lingered near the curtain, pretending to review paperwork that didn't exist. He leaned back. "I was 6 when I first touched a piano," he said, his tone conversational, as if explaining weather. "My teacher told me the black keys were for sadness and the white ones for joy. Took me years to learn they only make music together." That line landed like soft thunder. The girl with the phone covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "God." The live stream chat surged again. That line, holy hell. He's a poet. He's teaching her, without anger. He didn't speak to anyone in particular now. His words seemed aimed at the air, at the system, at whoever had designed this hierarchy of suspicion. "I used to think harmony meant agreement," he said. "Now I know it means respect." The FA looked away. The silence afterward wasn't victory, it was recognition. A long pause followed, broken only by the steady breathing of the engines. He picked up the piano key again and slipped it into his pocket. "We good now?" he asked softly. The supervisor cleared her throat. "Yes, sir. We're sorting it out." He smiled faintly. "Good. I'd like to get home before my daughter wakes up." The young woman filming blinked back tears. "You have a daughter?" He nodded. "She plays piano, too." The man in the navy blazer, the same one who'd mocked earlier, looked away this time. Shame had a way of rearranging posture. The intercom came alive. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We'll be taxiing shortly. Thank you for your patience." The FA murmured something into her headset, then turned away, her back rigid. He reached into his jacket again, fingers brushing the piano key like a heartbeat. For the first time since boarding, his shoulders eased. The young woman whispered into her mic, not for the stream, but for herself. "He's not fighting. He's teaching us how to listen." Outside, the runway lights shimmered through the mist, stretching into the dark. He looked out, eyes steady, voice almost inaudible. Sometimes silence is the loudest sound in the world. And in that stillness, the audience both inside the cabin and across the feed didn't just watch him anymore. They felt him. The empathy bridge had been crossed. The cabin lights brightened again, sterile, deliberate, the calm before bureaucracy. A chime sounded overhead. Then came the captain's voice. "Cabin crew, prepare for final check." The flight attendant exhaled, eyes flicking to her supervisor. A silent cue passed between them, and within seconds, another figure appeared at the front of the aisle, the lead purser, headset on, clipboard in hand, expression carefully neutral. "Sir," she said, her tone engineered to sound calm, "for the safety and comfort of all passengers, we'll resolve this matter once we're in the air." He didn't answer at first. He just looked at her, that long, unbroken kind of stare that made time slow down. "After takeoff," he finally said. "That means after the world stops watching." Her jaw tightened. "That's not what I meant." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hurt to wear. "I know exactly what you meant." A murmur spread through the rows. The live stream count ticked past 20,000. The young woman filming whispered, "It's trending now." A man 2 seats over spoke up, "Why don't you just apologize to the gentleman so we can take off?" The purser stiffened. "Sir, please refrain from intervening." The man scoffed. "Intervening? He's been sitting here for half an hour, quiet as a saint." The FA shot him a warning look. "Sir, we're trained to manage situations like this." "Manage?" he cut in. "You mean erase." The word hit like a cymbal strike. The air thickened. The hum of the engine swelled, louder, like the plane itself was holding its breath. She turned back to him, the man in seat 2A. "We just need to follow our protocol." He tilted his head, voice calm. "You keep saying that word, but I think what you mean is habit." Someone gasped quietly. The camera caught everything, her clenched jaw, his stillness. He went on, "Softer now. Protocol is what we hide behind when listening gets inconvenient." The live stream chat exploded. He's dismantling them with grace. How is he so calm? "This is bigger than a seat." The purser straightened, searching for authority in her clipboard. "Sir, if you cannot comply, we'll have to." "Remove me?" he asked gently. "From a seat I paid for? From a space my presence offends?" She faltered. The engines surged, a mechanical roar rising from below, echoing the blood in everyone's ears. 3 minutes to takeoff, the intercom announced. The young woman filming whispered, "This is insane. They're really doing this on camera." The purser lowered her voice. "Sir, please don't make this harder." He sighed, not in defeat, but in exhaustion. "I'm not making it harder. You are." He reached into his pocket again and pulled out the tiny piano key. He held it up between 2 fingers, catching the cabin light. "You see this?" he said quietly. "It's half of something. Alone it makes no sound." The cabin fell utterly silent. Even the engines seemed to soften. He placed the key on the armrest, then folded his hands. "But when the rest of it refuses to play with it," he said, "you don't get silence. You get noise." The purser swallowed hard, stepping back a fraction. The intercom cracked again. "This is your captain. Final confirmation, are we cleared for departure?" She hesitated, her headset trembling slightly. "Stand by," she murmured. The words echoed, "Stand by," a pause large enough to fit a nation's worth of doubt. He looked out the window. The tarmac lights blinked in rhythm, indifferent and methodical. Then, quietly, to no one in particular, he said, "Justice delayed isn't peace, it's practice." The camera caught the line. The chat exploded. This man is writing history in real time. Airline statement in 3.2.1. 25,000 watching live. He didn't look at the phone, didn't look at the purser. He simply leaned back, eyes closing. "Wake me when they remember how to listen," he said softly. The young woman filming wiped her eyes. "They already are," she whispered. And as the engines idled, the system so polished, so impersonal, finally seemed unsure of its own voice. The cabin had stopped pretending to be neutral. Every sound was too loud now. The click of pens, the crinkle of wrappers, the unison hum of people holding their breath. A new voice came over the intercom. Metallic, detached. "If this situation is not resolved within 60 seconds, the passenger in seat 2A will be escorted off for safety reasons." There it was, the countdown. 1 minute. The young woman's phone trembled in her hand. The live stream counter surged past 50,000, then 70,000. Comments blurred like rain. This is happening live. They're about to drag him off. He hasn't done anything. He sat perfectly still, the kind of stillness that humbles chaos. Across from him, the lead purser whispered into her headset, eyes darting, "Security on standby." Her voice cracked on the word security. He looked up. "You're really doing this?" She didn't answer. He spoke again, soft but cutting. "All this for sitting in the right seat." The captain's voice returned, colder now. "Cabin crew, confirm compliance." 40 seconds, someone murmured. The FA who had first questioned him stood frozen in the aisle, holding the corner of a headrest like a lifeline. Her mascara had smudged, a small betrayal of composure. She whispered, "Sir, please, just..." He interrupted gently. "You keep saying please, like it's mercy." Her throat worked, but no sound came. The young woman with the phone turned to the cabin. "Does anyone here think this is right?" she said loudly. Silence. Then a voice, the man in the blazer, rough, remorseful. "It's not." Another passenger echoed, "This is wrong." 30 seconds. The purser stiffened. "Everyone, remain seated." He looked around the quiet rebellion of eyes, refusing to look away. "You see," he said softly. "They're all obeying, even their hearts." He took out the tiny piano key again, rolling it between his fingers. It caught the overhead light, scattering a thin reflection across the FA's uniform. "When I was a kid," he said, "my piano teacher told me every note waits its turn. But if you silence one, the whole song collapses." He placed the key flat on the tray table, its white surface stark against the dark plastic. 20 seconds, came the voice. The live stream count hit 80,000. Hashtags flooded social media. Number seat 2. A number harmony denied. Number flyin' while black. He exhaled slowly. The air burned cold in his lungs. 15, someone whispered. The FA's hand trembled near his armrest, not in threat, in confusion. He looked at her, and something shifted in his voice. "You don't hate me," he said. "You're afraid of what happens if you don't obey." She blinked hard, tears threatening. 10 seconds, the intercom barked. He leaned forward, eyes level with hers. "You're counting down my dignity," he said quietly. Her lip quivered. 5, the intercom warned. The cabin had become a breathing organism of fear and empathy, pulsing in sync. He lifted the piano key once more, held it to the light, and whispered, not for her, not for the audience, but for himself. "I am not your mistake to fix." The intercom fell silent. No, 0. No escort. Only the sharp sound of the live stream notification ping, tens of thousands of hearts flooding the feed. He looked toward the aisle. The FA lowered her gaze. The purser pressed her headset, listening to a voice only she could hear, then said faintly, "Hold position." A murmur rippled through the plane, disbelief and relief tangled together. He leaned back, eyes on the ceiling. "Guess we've run out of time," he said softly. The live stream caught the line. It trended instantly. And for the first time that night, the power in the room didn't belong to the one standing. It belonged to the man sitting still. No one spoke. The last words had dissolved into an electric hush, that rare kind of silence where everyone knows something irreversible is about to happen. He looked around the cabin, rows of faces lit by blue cabin light, by phone screens, by disbelief. Then quietly, "You said this seat isn't mine," he began, his voice low but carrying, "because you couldn't see someone like me in it." The FA's throat tightened. "Sir, that's not—" He didn't raise his voice, yet it cut through her defense like air parting for wind. "But you didn't check the name on the ticket, did you?" The live stream camera zoomed in. His reflection shimmered on a dozen screens. "You didn't see it," he continued, "because you never looked." She took a step back, eyes glistening. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a folded business card. Black, matte, embossed silver lettering. He held it up so the cabin light caught his name. "My company," he said softly, "owns the streaming rights to your airline's in-flight entertainment." A beat of pure, stunned silence. "I'm the reason half of you watched movies here last year," he added, tone even, almost weary. "And yet I still had to prove I belong in this seat." The purser's face drained of color. She pressed her headset, stammering into the mic. Cancel standby." The captain's voice crackled faintly, confused. "Say again?" "Cancel it," she said louder. "Now." The FA covered her mouth. Oh my God. The young woman with the phone whispered into her mic, "It's him. He's the—" She stopped herself, tears welling up. He never used it as leverage. The chat went wild. "He's the sponsor? Corporate poetic justice." He earned that calm. He didn't look at the camera. He looked only at the FA. "I'm not angry at you," he said gently. "You did what this place taught you to do. You followed the tone, not the truth." She blinked, tears spilling. "I didn't mean—" "I know," he nodded. "But meaning and doing aren't the same key." He held up the tiny piano key, balancing it between his fingers. "Harmony fails when one note tries to silence the other." She covered her face with her hands. Around them, the passengers sat frozen, the sound of collective conscience too heavy to break. The captain spoke again over the intercom, uncertain. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated." But the power had shifted. The young woman stood, defying the announcement. "Sir," she said, voice trembling, "we're all watching now. The world's watching." He smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe they'll hear something worth keeping." He turned toward the FA again, not accusing, not absolving, just seeing her. "You wanted to do your job," he said softly. "But your job wasn't the problem." Then, to the purser, "Your system was." The live stream counter ticked past 110,000. Outside, the plane lights glimmered on the tarmac, the night holding its breath. He placed the piano key back on his tray table, parallel to the edge, perfectly aligned. "This seat," he said, "was never the issue. It was the sound of me in it." The FA let out a broken whisper. "I'm so sorry." He didn't answer. His silence was mercy, and it was final. The purser gestured to the intercom, voice trembling. "Captain, standby cleared. Cabin stable." The engines hummed again, gentle, obedient. The young woman turned her camera toward him one last time. "What do you want people to take from this?" she asked quietly. He looked at her, eyes tired but unwavering. "That harmony isn't agreement," he said. "It's the courage to listen to what doesn't flatter you." No one applauded. No one moved. The world, for once, had learned to hold a note. The applause never came. It wasn't that kind of victory. The engines idled softly as the purser walked away, leaving the two of them, the man and the FA, suspended in the strange quiet of aftermath. She stood by his seat, hands clasped tight, eyes red but unshed. The live stream still ran, though no one spoke. 120,000 people watching, and yet the air felt like a confession only two souls could hear. "Sir," she began, her voice cracking. I didn't know who you were." He shook his head gently. "That's the point." Her breath hitched. "No, you don't understand. It wasn't just you." He looked up. Patient. Then who? She blinked fast, as if pushing back years. My mother worked for this airline. 22 years. Cleaning crews. She lost her job in the restructuring. The one your media campaign helped promote. The words hit softly, but deep like a chord played in a lower register. He didn't move, but something shifted in his eyes, the flicker of realization that justice had its own ghosts. She went on, voice trembling. She believed in this company. She said change was good, that new faces meant new chances. And then they let her go. Just gone. The silence that followed was unbearable. He whispered, "I'm sorry." She shook her head hard.
You didn't fire her. You didn't even know her name.
He closed his eyes. But I made the ad that said, "We're building a modern future." She flinched at the memory of that slogan. She cried when she saw it. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low. You think I didn't lose people too? Every campaign I've done, someone gets left behind. Every time I sell progress, someone's mother disappears. Her face crumpled. Then we both played the wrong note. He looked up, a faint, pained smile ghosted across his face. Yeah, he said softly. We did. The young woman filming lowered her phone completely. She whispered to herself, "Oh my God." The comment slowed to a crawl. They both lost something. This is what justice sounds like. No villains. Just people. The FA wiped her eyes, mascara streaking down. I didn't want to be cruel, she said. I just wanted to feel safe in my own job. They tell us be firm, follow rules, don't make exceptions. He nodded, quiet. They tell me the same thing when I sell the message. Her laugh came out broken. You're better at it. He exhaled, almost a chuckle, but hollow. Not tonight. She stood still for a long time, then reached out, hesitated, and placed the boarding pass back on his tray. For what it's worth, she whispered, you were right about harmony. He looked down at the tiny piano key, still lying beside his drink napkin, motionless. He picked it up, rubbed it between his fingers, then set it in front of her. Keep it, he said. Maybe we'll both remember the sound. Her lip quivered. It doesn't make a sound, too. He nodded. Not alone. Outside the window, dawn had begun to stain the edge of the horizon, the faintest gray-pink, soft and uncertain. She whispered, They'll fire me for this. He looked at her, really looked, and said, Then maybe they'll learn something first. For a moment, the two of them just breathed the same air, the silence between them no longer a wall but a fragile bridge. The live stream was still on, but the comments had stopped entirely, as if the audience, too, knew they were intruding on something sacred. He leaned back, eyes distant. You know, he said, voice barely above a whisper, my daughter asked me once if music can forgive. The FA swallowed hard. And what did you tell her? He looked out the window, the rising light reflected in his eyes. I told her only if we listen long enough. Neither of them moved. In that moment, two strangers, once adversaries, sat in the wreckage of misunderstanding, bound by a truth larger than both. No one wins when the world only hears the loudest note. The dawn had fully breached the horizon, now soft light spilling through the cabin windows, painting everything in muted gold. For a moment, it looked like nothing had changed. Same seat, same hum of the engines, same faces pretending to rest. But something had shifted in the air, a kind of fragile equilibrium. The captain's voice came over the intercom again, this time slower, uncertain. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been advised to pause all departures pending review. Please remain seated while we conduct a protocol audit. The words rippled through the cabin like a soft detonation. The purser lowered her headset, exhaling. The FA closed her eyes, shoulders trembling, half relief, half resignation. The man in 2A didn't move. He simply nodded once, as if hearing the note he'd been waiting for all along. The young woman who'd filmed everything turned her camera off. "They stopped the flight," she whispered. "It's official. Bias audit." Her seatmate murmured, "They'll try to make it disappear later." She shook her head. "Not this time." Outside, the runway lights dimmed one by one, like an orchestra winding down after its last performance. The FA hesitated near his seat. "They're grounding us," she said softly. "For what happened?" He looked up, voice gentle. "Maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's tuning." She frowned. "Tuning?" He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out the tiny piano key, and held it up between them. "You don't fix harmony by starting over," he said. "You fix it by listening." Her eyes filled again. "I'll remember that." He placed the key in her hand. "Then keep this, for the next time someone sounds wrong to you." She closed her fingers around it like something sacred. "Thank you." He smiled faintly. "Don't thank me. Just play better next time." The intercom chimed again. A new voice, corporate, formal. "This is an internal operations message. Effective immediately, all customer service staff will undergo equity and bias training before further flights. Thank you for your patience." There it was. The systemic echo. Justice, not shouted, implemented. He looked out the window, watching the light crawl across the tarmac, the world brightening inch by inch. The young woman beside him whispered, "You changed everything tonight." He smiled, eyes still on the horizon. "I didn't change anything. I just stopped playing along." The engines wound down. The crew began moving quietly, mechanically. Somewhere behind him, someone started clapping. One pair of hands, uncertain. It didn't spread. It didn't need to. The FA lingered a moment longer, the piano key still in her palm. "I'll make sure they hear you," she said softly. He turned to her, expression kind. "Don't hear me. Hear the next one." Then he looked straight ahead, the seatbelt light glowing faintly above him. "Sometimes," he said, "harmony isn't about matching tones. It's about being heard." She nodded once, then stepped away. The young woman raised her phone again, not to film, but to type. Her post read. He never raised his voice. He never stood up. But somehow, the world did. Outside, the first plane lifted off another runway, its shadow passing over the fuselage like a final chord fading. He closed his eyes, let the sound of turbines settle into a steady rhythm. From somewhere deep in the cabin, a child hummed a tune, a small, off-key melody that somehow fit. He smiled. For the first time all night, it sounded like harmony. So tell me, what did you feel when the plane went silent? Was it relief, anger, or that ache when justice finally sounds human again? I want to hear from you. What line stayed with you the most? Leave your thoughts below. Your voice is part of this harmony too. If this story moved you, tap like, share it with someone who still believes calm can be powerful, and hit subscribe to stay with us for more true emotional journeys, stories where silence speaks louder than revenge. Until the next flight, keep listening.